Hi everybody, welcome to my very first knitting tutorial on my new knitting channel. And on this channel there are going to be a lot of absolute beginner knitting tutorials to get you started in knitting, much requested. So in this video I'm going to be showing you how to cast on. Okay, so for these tutorials I'm going to be using some nice big chunky yarn. I've got nice super bulky red yarn here so you can hopefully see nice and clearly, and with that I'm going to be using some really big chunky knitting needles as well, and these are actually some bamboo 10mm knitting needles. Okay, so I hope that'll help you see as well. But the very first thing to do is we are going to create a little slip knot, so exactly the same as crocheting. And how I create a slip knot, what I do is I just hang the tail end, so this is what I call the tail end, in front of my hand like so, and I just wrap the yarn around these two fingers so they cross over at the top. Give yourself a nice big crossover like so, and then I just use this hand, this finger, to hold the yarn in place. Then what I do is I'm just going to put my knitting needle or crochet hook, whatever, under this first bit of yarn, and I'm just going to grab this bit of yarn that's going over the top, and I'm going to bring that through, turn my hand round, so that's caught it there. And then just let go of everything, pull your tail ends, and then pull the yarn that you're working with, so not the tail end, to get that slip knot on your knitting needle. So I'll show you that again. What I do is I just dangle the tail end in front of my hand, wrap it around the fingers so it crosses over, nice big crossover on the top, and I hold it in place with these two fingers. Then what I do is I get my knitting needle or crochet hook and I put it under that first bit of yarn, under the bottom, on the bottom, and then I grab this bit that's over the top, and this is the bit that we're going to pull through. So we're just going to pull that through. Then turn your hand upside down, keep pulling that yarn through, you'll see it there, and that's where you want to hold on to. Okay, so that was the one that was on the top, and you've pulled it up. Then let go of everything else and just pull the tail ends, and then pull the one you're working with to get your first loop on your hook or knitting needle, like so. And you don't want it too tight, you want it to be able to slip up and down nice and easily, like so. Okay, so let's get knitting. Okay, so once you've created your slip knot, you want to make sure that it's nice and loose on your knitting needle, not so loose that it falls off, but you want to make sure that you've just also got a little bit of room to put in your other knitting needle as well, so it's not right up tight against your needle, otherwise that will make things very stiff and difficult to knit. So once you've got your first slip knot, what we want to do is to cast on some other loops, so we've got something to knit with. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our other knitting needle here, and we just want to place it to the left hand side of your slip knot, and then we're just going to poke our knitting needle through that loop. So you see that gap underneath, we just want to put it through our loop and come out the other side, so it ends up to the right of the yarn on the other side, and your right hand knitting needle is underneath your left needle, so it's sat underneath. So you start to the left, put your needle through the loop so it sits underneath and has gone through your loop, like so. Then we want to just keep that tail end out of the way, and we're going to take, you can always pull that tighter if you want to make it just a little bit more firm. We're going to take the yarn we're working with here, which should be sat down here, and we're going to wrap it around, let's bring this down, we're going to wrap it around this needle here that's underneath. So this one at the back, we're going to wrap it round, and we're going to bring the yarn through the middle of our knitting needles so it sits over the top of that loop. The yarn literally just sits right over the top, cutting that loop in half. Okay, so we're going to bring the yarn we're working with, we're going to wrap it round our right needle on the bottom and bring that yarn through the middle of your needles so it cuts that loop in half. Then what we want to do is we want to bring this right needle, the one on the bottom, down, bring it down, and we want to catch that bit of yarn. So just tilt your needle a little bit and just catch that piece of yarn that we brought down the middle. Okay, and then bring that up. Just hold that loop in place like so, and you want to bring that loop up, so you can just pull up gently, and that should feed through nice and easily. Then what you want to do is you don't want to just hook that on to your needle, you want to just twist and go underneath. So bring this left needle underneath that loop, okay, just underneath that loop, and then hook it. Okay, so don't just hook it straight on like that. You want to just bring this left needle forward and go underneath and catch it that way. And put that onto your left needle, let go, and then pull the yarn you're working with. Don't put it too tight, you want to allow a little space. Just put your needle in again. And there is our second loop. So our second stitch ready and waiting. So we continue that until we have as many stitches as we need. So again, we put our needle to the left hand side of this stitch we just created, put it through, and we're going to feed that needle through that loop again. Okay, so this is our second loop. We're going to feed it through so it comes out the other side on the right hand side, and this needle sits underneath. Okay, and I'm just resting it on my finger there. And again, we're going to take this tail end, which should be the yarn we're working with should be sat underneath, and we're going to wrap that around the needle again and bring the yarn through the center of your needles, so right for the middle. And again, it cuts that loop in half, and it's that bit of yarn, this bit of yarn here, that we want to catch with this needle on the bottom. You can see there, if you turn it upside down, if I pull that, you can see it moving. That's the bit of yarn we want to catch there. And you want to just hold that in place and then just bring up a loop, bring up that loop. It should feed through if you let go of your yarn you're working with. It should just bring up a loop nice and easy. If it doesn't come up nice and easy, you've probably got some yarn caught somewhere. And again, get your left needle and bring it to the front, and we want to just go underneath. Okay, so we don't just want to feed it on straight away, we want to make sure it goes underneath. You almost have to twist this yarn, this loop slightly, and go underneath and then put it on that way. Okay, and then just pull the yarn you're working with. And that creates these nice edging like so. And again, don't put it too tight, make sure you've got enough room to get that needle through again. So I'll show you again. We go to the left side of the stitch, put our needle through, so it sits on the bottom, it's gone through that loop. I'm going to bring the yarn around the back of that needle at the back and down through the center of your needles, and make sure that it's tight enough so it's sitting right in between there. You can see it's sat on top of that loop. And we bring this right needle down, and we want to catch that bit of yarn that we've just hooked through the middle, just threaded through the middle. Want to catch that and then bring your needle up so we catch it, and then just pull up and it should feed through. And then bring that up, and again we bring our left needle round to the front and we want to go underneath. Okay, so underneath. We don't just want to just keep our needles there and pop that on. You can do that, but it's messier. We want to bring our needle round and underneath and thread it onto our needle that way. Then we pull our tail end like so, and there is our next stitch like so. And you just repeat that over and over and over until you have the stitch count that you want. So make sure you come cleanly through there, catch that loop, bring that up, and then bring this needle around and go underneath to hook it on. So we go to the left of the stitch, put our needle through, thread the yarn round and down through the middle, make sure it sits nicely on that loop, then keep almost keep this stitch out of the way as well so you don't catch it with this needle. Just hold that out of the way if you're a beginner, and just bring this needle down, and you want to come cleanly. That's why if you don't hold that stitch you can end up catching the back of this stitch with your needle. So if you hold it out of the way, you come cleanly through that gap, and I'm holding it this down as well, so make sure I catch that. And there we go, I catch that loop, and I can bring that up and let go of my yarn. Bring that up, bring the left needle round and underneath, and make sure you consistently put your stitches on in the same direction. If you're alternating with how you're putting it on, it may end up a little bit messier. So there we go, that's how to cast on one way your stitches. And a much easier way to cast on, I will show you as well, create a much looser edge to your project, but I shall show you that now as well. Okay, so casting on method number 2, which is a lot easier if you're a beginner as well, but it does create a looser edge. It can work for baggier tops, chunkier tops and things. But once you've got your slip knot like this, you take the yarn that you're working with, and all you want to do is just grab it with these 2 fingers and just twist it to make a loop in the opposite direction. So you just grab the yarn and just twist it up so you create like a little loop like so. See, that yarn you're working with goes over that bit of yarn there, creates a little loop, and you just hook that on, just hook that loop on and then pull, and that is a stitch. So as you can see, that's much easier. So you just grab the yarn and grab it with your hand in this direction actually. Just grab it and then just flick, just twist the yarn so you create a little loop, and just feed that loop onto your needle like so. So you grab the yarn and twist to create a loop and hook on that loop like so. So you grab the yarn with these 2 fingers, twist to create that loop and hook that loop on. So there you go, and that creates a looser edge like so, but can be an easier way for beginners. So just twist. Now you're thinking, why didn't you show me that first? Because the other way is the more, it gets you used to knitting, so if you really struggle you can do this option. So you just grab the yarn and twist it up, create that little loop and flip that loop on like so. There we go. So that's 2 ways to cast on in knitting, and in my next tutorial I shall show you how to do the knit stitch and then the purl stitch and then so much more. See you soon for some more knitting fun. Thanks for watching. Bye.